All right, so today we're gonna really take a deep dive into something pretty mind-blowing, I think.
Okay.
AI safety.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about how to keep AI safe when it's doing real-world things, like
Let's see.
automating tasks or even doing market research. We've got some fascinating research from Anthropic about a new approach that they're calling hierarchical summarization.
That's right.
And this is really all about spotting those subtle dangers
Yeah.
that might slip through the cracks when we're thinking about, AI safety in the real world.
Yeah, it's a really important area because when you think about the potential for harm, when AI is interacting with the real world at scale,
Right.
you've got things like spam and fraud,
Right.
and even actions that seem pretty harmless individually. But when you've got AI doing them thousands or millions of times,
Right.
that's when they can become a real problem.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how traditional AI safety methods, like content moderation and those prompt classifiers,
Right.
might miss some of those more nuanced threats.
Exactly.
They're great for catching the obvious stuff, but maybe not so much the slow burn dangers.
Yeah. Traditional methods are like having a security guard
Okay.
who's great at spotting someone trying to break in through the front door, but might miss someone sneaking in through a side window.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So that's where this hierarchical summarization comes in, right?
exactly.
It's like giving the AI a bird's eye view of everything it's doing so it can spot those patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed.
You got it.
Okay.
It's like summarizing the summaries.
Okay.
You're taking all those complex interactions that the AI is having, whether it's text, images, or code,
Right.
and you're condensing them into these concise summaries.
Okay.
Then you take all those summaries and you summarize them again at a higher level. So this way you're not just looking at individual actions,
Right.
but you're looking at the overall patterns of behavior.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does that actually work in practice?
Okay.
Like, give me an example.
Yeah, so imagine Claude, Anthropic's AI,
Right?
is browsing the web and interacting with various websites.
Huh?
In the first stage, called interaction summarization.
Okay.
Basically, writing a little report of each interaction, like visited website X, read article Y, downloaded file Z.
Okay.
Then the second stage, usage summarization, all those reports are analyzed for patterns.
Gotcha.
So instead of just seeing that Claude downloaded a file, you see that it downloaded 100 similar files
Okay.
in a short period of time,
Uh-huh.
which might raise a red flag.
So it's like having a detective who's not just looking at individual clues, but connecting them together to see the bigger picture.
That's right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But isn't there a risk that these AI-generated summaries could miss crucial information or even be manipulated?
Sure, that's where Anthropic's rigorous testing and validation process comes in. They use something called red teaming, where they basically have ethical hackers try to trick the system and see if it can still accurately summarize those tricky interactions.
Okay.
It's like a constant stress test
Right.
to make sure the summaries are reliable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like giving the AI a trial by fire to make sure it can handle the heat. So how well is this hierarchical summarization actually working? Give me the numbers.
Okay, the results are pretty impressive.
Yeah.
They found that Claude's summarization AI is 96% accurate
Wow.
and 98% complete in summarizing computer use interactions.
Okay.
That means out of 100 potential threats, this system is likely to catch 96 of them.
Wow. 96% accuracy. That's seriously impressive. But it also makes me wonder.
But what's fascinating here is that
Wow, 96% accuracy. That's seriously impressive. But it also makes me wonder what happens when the system does flag something suspicious.
yeah, it's
Is there like an AI alarm bell that goes off?
it's not quite that dramatic, but yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay.
Think of it more like a detective handing off a case file.
Right.
The system flags the potentially harmful activity,
Mm-hmm.
and then a team of human experts steps in
Gotcha.
to review those summaries and determine the level of risk.
Okay.
It's a multi-layered approach that combines the power of AI with human judgment.
So it's like a partnership.
Yeah,
Where the AI is the super sleuth gathering all the evidence,
that's a great way to put it.
and the humans are the seasoned detectives making sense of it all.
Right.
That's a pretty reassuring system, especially when we're talking about something as complex as AI safety.
Yeah.
But how does this actually play out in the real world?
Sure.
Can you give me an example?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's say someone tries to use Claude to create hundreds of fake social media accounts.
Okay.
Now, creating one fake account might not seem like a big deal,
Right.
and it might even slip past traditional security measures.
Right, because it looks like normal human behavior at first glance.
Exactly. But with hierarchical summarization, the system can see the pattern of Claude, creating account after account. And that raises a red flag.
Gotcha.
It's like noticing someone buying a suspicious amount of fertilizer.
Okay.
Individually, it's innocent.
Right.
But the pattern suggests that something else might be going on.
That's a great analogy. It really highlights how this approach can catch those subtle but potentially dangerous patterns that we humans might miss.
Right.
So what happens next? Do they just shut down Claude completely?
Not necessarily. It depends on the severity of the threat.
Okay.
Remember, Anthropic has this multi-layered safety system in place.
Right.
So for something like the fake account scenario, they might start by issuing a warning to the user or limiting Claude's access to certain features.
Okay.
If the behavior continues, then they can take stronger actions like suspending or even banning the user.
Gotcha.
It's all about having a proportionate response.
It's like a graduated system of consequences, kind of like how we deal with speeding tickets. First a warning, then a fine, then maybe you lose your license if you keep pushing it.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But we've been talking a lot about Anthropic and how they're using this to protect their own AI. What about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
Could this technology be used to address broader societal concerns about AI safety?
That's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about keeping one company's AI safe.
Right.
It's about creating a blueprint for a safer AI future for everyone.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Imagine using hierarchical summarization to monitor social media platforms for things like hate speech or misinformation campaigns.
Okay.
Instead of relying solely on keyword filters, which can be easily bypassed.
Right.
This approach could analyze patterns of user behavior to identify coordinated efforts to spread harmful content.
That's a powerful idea. It's like having an AI that can spot the difference between a genuine grassroots movement and a bunch of bots trying to manipulate public opinion.
Precisely. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We could use this technology to monitor for financial fraud, cyber attacks, even the spread of dangerous diseases. The potential applications are vast.
This is mind-blowing stuff. But with all this talk about monitoring and safety, it also makes me think about privacy. How do we make sure these systems are used responsibly and don't end up infringing on people's rights?
That's an incredibly important question, and it's one that researchers and developers are grappling with right now.
Right.
It's all about finding the right balance.
So what are some of the safeguards that could be put in place?
For starters, transparency is key.
Okay.
People need to know how their data is being used and what kind of monitoring is taking place.
Right, because if you don't know you're being monitored, you can't really consent to it, can you?
Exactly. And then there's the issue of control. People should have the ability to opt out of certain types of monitoring if they choose.
Okay.
It's all about empowering individuals and giving them a say in how their data is used.
That makes sense. It's like having the ability to adjust your privacy settings on social media.
Right.
You get to decide how much information you're comfortable sharing.
That's a great analogy. And then there's the question of oversight.
Okay.
We need to make sure these systems are being used ethically and responsibly.
Right.
Which means having clear guidelines and independent audits to ensure they're not being used for nefarious purposes.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider, but it's all really important stuff.
Absolutely.
We need to have these conversations now before this technology becomes so widespread that it's difficult to control.
Yeah, I agree.
So where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in the story of hierarchical summarization?
One of the most exciting frontiers is automation.
Okay.
Right now, there's still a lot of human involvement in reviewing those flagged summaries and deciding what actions to take.
Right.
But as the technology matures, we can see more automated responses to potential threats. Imagine an AI system that can not only detect harmful behavior, but also take corrective action in real time.
It's like having an AI guardian angel always watching over us and stepping in when things start to go wrong. That's both amazing and a little bit scary at the same time.
It is a bit of both. And it's precisely why we need to have these discussions and think carefully about the implications of this technology.
Right.
But the potential benefits are undeniable.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot between innovation and responsibility.
Yeah.
Making sure we're using this powerful technology for good while also safeguarding our values and our freedom.
Exactly. It's a balancing act for sure, but one that's absolutely crucial as we navigate this new era of AI.
And on that note, we'll be back after a quick break to discuss the future of hierarchical summarization and what other innovative approaches might be needed to ensure the responsible development of AI. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been unpacking this groundbreaking new approach to AI safety called hierarchical summarization. And
it's really got me thinking about all the possibilities and, the potential benefits.
it's definitely a game changer. And one of the most exciting things is how this technology can actually help us create an even safer AI future.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Well, remember how we talked about Anthropic using the insights they gain from these summaries to develop new safeguards? It's like they're constantly learning and adapting, using the AI's own actions to make it even safer.
So it's like a continuous feedback loop where the AI is essentially helping to improve its own safety protocols.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. But what does that look like in practice?
Well,
what kind of safeguards are we talking about?
one really promising area is automation.
Okay.
Right now, we still rely on humans to review those flag summaries and make decisions about what actions to take.
Right.
But imagine a future where the AI can not only detect a potential threat, but also automatically take steps to neutralize it.
Okay, now that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Like the AI is suddenly a superhero swooping in to save the day.
Right.
But how realistic is that?
It's closer than you might think. Imagine an AI system that's monitoring a network for cyber attacks
Okay.
instead of just alerting a human operator.
Right.
It could automatically isolate the infected devices, block malicious traffic, and even deploy countermeasures.
Whoa.
It's like having an AI security guard that's always on high alert.
That's a pretty reassuring thought, especially with all the cyber threats out there these days.
Yeah, definitely.
But what about those areas where the threats are less predictable, like those advanced cyber or CBRN capabilities you mentioned earlier?
Right.
Can this technology really help us in those situations?
Absolutely. Think about it. Hierarchical summarization is all about finding patterns and anomalies in vast amounts of data.
Okay.
That's incredibly valuable when you're dealing with complex systems where the threats might be subtle or even unknown.
So it's like having an AI detective that can sift through mountains of evidence and find that one tiny clue that cracks the case wide open.
Exactly.
That's pretty impressive. But let's step back for a moment and consider the bigger picture. If we can use this technology to monitor AI and make it safer, could it be used to monitor human behavior as well?
That's a really interesting question, and one that raises important ethical considerations.
Right.
The technology itself could potentially be used to analyze patterns in human behavior.
Yeah.
But we need to be extremely careful about how and where it's applied.
Right, because it's one thing to use AI to monitor other AI.
Right.
But when you start talking about monitoring humans, that raises all sorts of privacy and freedom concerns.
Exactly. We need to have a serious conversation about the ethical implications of using this technology in a way that respects individual rights and freedoms.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values and principles that guide how we use it. It's about making sure we're using this powerful tool for good and not creating a dystopian future where everyone is constantly being monitored and controlled.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We need to remember that AI is a tool.
Right.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to make sure it's used responsibly and ethically.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into hierarchical summarization.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. It's been an incredible journey exploring the cutting edge of AI safety and the potential of this groundbreaking technology.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you a glimpse into the exciting and rapidly evolving world of AI safety. As AI continues to advance, we all need to stay informed, engaged, and committed to shaping its development in a way that benefits all of humanity. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.